Everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. It's time to check in with Lafourche Parish. For that, we're bringing their Lafourche Parish president, Archie Chaisson. Man, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Harry. Good to be back.
Yeah, we're not stuck on some Skype or something like that. So
That's right.
it's good. And we were talking, I mean, kind of normal, which is nice, I guess, for you.
Yeah, it's allowing us to get back to the things that we're supposed to be doing, right? And that's been a struggle for, I guess, the last 11 months since Ida. We've been so hyper focused on some of that stuff, we forget about all the other stuff that we had on the books, right? And we just finished last council meeting last week. The council voted to approve a $110 million bond issue that's going to help us kind of cash flow all those hurricane projects, from building repairs until we get the insurance money back. And of course, we have about $40 million worth of pump station damage from the hurricanes that we have to cash flow until we get those FEMA reimbursements back because those things weren't insured. So that's a huge step forward for us. The engineers have been working for several months now to get projects ready to go, roof projects out to bid. But we've been reluctant to pull the trigger on some of those things because the funding just wasn't there. Because as much as I would love to have $110 million in cash in the bank, we just don't. So it's been great to see that progress. It's going to be good to see those buildings start to get re-roofed. If you go downtown Thibodeau, all of the government buildings, including the courthouse, still have those temporary white roofs on them from the hurricane. One, just because of contractors and pricing, and there's only a handful of local architects and engineers that we use because we like to keep it local. But those guys are also working for Terrebonne Parish. They're working for the diocese. They're working for the school board. So when we're pushing those guys as fast as we can, but we understand they have 5 other clients besides us that are all public entities, right, or semi-public entities, I guess, when you look at the diocese, and we're all pushing them toward the same thing. And then there's only so many contractors that do this thing, and there's only so many suppliers of roofing material and insulation. So it's been a struggle to kind of get that going.
Right. And they have to, for their insurance, they have to be big enough. So a lot of times they have to bring in partners to partner with them so they can be big enough to get a bond and they get insurance to make a bid for things like that.
Yeah. So we kind of did the Lockport Community Center, which was a newer project. We already had plans and specs ready to go. So that was kind of our test project about 2 months ago of what prices were going to look like, what lead times were going to look like when it came to roofing materials, and in this particular case, gym flooring, because we have to replace the gym floor because it got wet and kind of buckled in a few spots. So that project's about to kick off, and we're looking at about 3 months worth of roofing and gym floor replacement. So things are going to start to progress. You're going to see more and more little project signs go up the more and more stuff we get done. Debris pickup continues, which is weird that almost we're pushing that year mark, believe it or not. It's getting close to that August 28th date. 29th date. So, but we're still picking up debris. We're still doing some of those kind of cleanup activities from the storm, but we're getting back. And I think last time I was on the show with Keith, I talked about that it was, we're back. I use the term normal loosely because there's still people dealing with gutted homes and insurance companies and stuff like that, but we're slowly getting back to where we need to be.
Right. Which brings us to hurricane. We're in hurricane season. I wish we were almost past, at this age, I don't want to go too fast on anything in life anymore, but I'd like to get past August 29th. Right. Yeah. But so, yeah, we're right in the middle of it. It's been real hot. I know a lot of people worried about that. And then you got a lot of people still living in trailers and that kind of stuff that may present a different problem this year. So how are we doing from that standpoint?
We're good. All of our whole region, and when you look at our emergency preparedness directors, Earl here in Terrebonne, Chris for us over in Lafourche, they've been working together for so many years now. This is like clockwork for those guys, right? Even as bad as Ida was, we knew what we were doing because these guys have been around for so long. And this year is going to be a little bit different. Look, knock on wood, we don't have a hurricane. We don't have to evacuate anybody, but you have to contend with now all of these people who are in state trailers and these RV campers and in the FEMA units as to where we're going to put these people. Because even in a severe weather event, like you saw us do, in the April, May months, when we get those real strong thunderstorms that blow through, we had to open up shelters for people to come into. So now it's not just the category 1s, 2, 3, 4s, it's the tropical storms. Where are we going to open up shelters? Where are we going to put these people? Who's going to run them? How are we going to foot the bill for that, knowing that we're already kind of cash strapped from this hurricane season, and what do those reimbursements look like? And so we've been doing a lot of homework with Monroe and the Ouachita parishes and those guys about bringing people up north. We've even looked as far as Mississippi to say, look, if we run out of room, because we have 4,000 people, Terrebonne's got 7,000 or 8,000 people, Lower Jefferson's got to bring people out now, Orleans. If we all have to leave, where are we going to put these people? So it's kind of changed the game on us. So we've had to look at other directions. There were some changes in state law this year about nursing homes because of what happened in Independence. So there's some new planning procedures for those nursing homes and who has to review their emergency preparedness plans, where are they going, who's looking at where they're going now. So we're going to be traveling,
That's a government thing?
looking at other, they
But
wrote
I
a
mean,
bill.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that particular owner got in trouble, but now you guys have to look over their shoulder, I guess?
Yeah, the way they rewrote the law was that they have to send a plan to LDH, which is the state. The state funnels it back to not only the parish that it's in, but the parish that they're evacuating to. So now you have to look at their nursing home itself and see what it's rated for and what they can stay to. And then you also have to look at where they're going. So people don't end up, if you showed 100 Independence Avenue up in Tangipahoa again, they're going to know it's a defunct warehouse, right? We better figure out what we're going to do when we get there. So those things have changed. So it puts a little bit added burden on us from a planning standpoint. But after seeing what happened up there, it kind of makes sense that we have to have a little bit better oversight, and hopefully that never happens again.
Right. Yeah. No. That's tough to just, privately own that kind of stuff. I mean, it's real hard. Obviously, they had some issues with Katrina in St. Bernard Parish as well. Those are real tough situations for anybody to try and move that many people at that time. So yeah, that's tough. Hey, we're going to take a break here in just a second, but quickly, you going up to Colorado, so that'll be something good to talk about. But we were talking, it's counties though. They're doing counties. Can you any way you can get them to start calling the National Association of Parishes?
Yeah, we tried. It's funny, we get on these conference calls and they say you're from Lafourche Parish, so you never have to say you're from Louisiana because they automatically know where you're from.
They need to learn about the Napoleonic Code and do parishes. So let's talk about the Colorado National Association of Counties annual meeting. So you represent the energy side of that. So tell me a little bit about this and where it's going to be in Denver.
It's actually in Aurora, right on the outside,
Aurora,
right side on the outside. So we fly out tomorrow, and we were involved with NACO when I was with the parish the last time. Ms. Randolph served on one of the policy steering committees. So we took office. We got back involved, and we're the only parish in Louisiana to have our entire executive team appointed to National Steering Committee. So all of our department heads sit on a committee with their expertise, right? So our finance director sits on the finance and pension committee. Mitch Ogeron, who comes from the oil and gas and transportation background, sits on the transportation committee. So I've been on the environmental, energy, and land use committee for a couple of years, and then last year got appointed by the NACO president as the energy committee chairman. So we deal with everything energy, right? Whether we're talking solar, whether we're talking wind, or whether we're talking oil and gas. So we work every year with counties from across the country. That there's probably, I don't know, a good 50 of us on that environmental, energy, and land use committee, and we're from all over the country, right? We range from Saratoga, New York. There's a county commissioner, or a parish councilman from up there, and NACO is really the national lobbying group for everyone around the country. So if you can get a policy resolution through NACO, then it carries a lot more weight than just Archie or Gordy or one of the parish presidents screaming from Louisiana, right? You have 50 states and 1,000 some odd million counties that are involved in all of this. So it really carries a lot of weight. So last year we worked on some energy resolutions about, renewing offshore leases in the Gulf. We had a lease sale last year, right? So it kind of worked. This year we're really focusing on the administration's 5-year plan that they rolled out about a week ago, and then renewing those leases, both offshore and onshore. There's a public land steering committee that's chaired by a county commissioner out of Wyoming. So we work with them very closely, and we kind of write them together, right? So we're not just focused on the Gulf. We also want to help them out too. So we're gonna get that resolution through. We face some battles from the climate changers within NACO, right? And it's to get them to understand that no matter what you do in life, right? We're all gonna get on airplanes tomorrow and fly to Denver.
Right.
So if you want to do that, then you need oil and gas. And last year it was to try to get them to understand that we all believe in climate change, right? It's not, I don't think anybody denies that it's a real thing, but we all share one atmosphere last time I checked. So if we're gonna let Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela, we saw the president on the news this morning giving a fist bump to the crown prince, right? To go beg them to produce more oil. If we want them to do it, they do it. I think Venezuela, Iran, and China are like the top 3 dirtiest polluting countries when they drill, right? So if we're going to do it, why don't we do it here? We do it 53% cleaner than anywhere. Our emissions rates are much less. Our flaring rates are much less. And we could produce it here and not only help our country and put people back to work, but it's also a way to help the environment, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's to get them to understand that. And we were on a call last week about all these policy resolutions. It was the leadership of the committees. And there was a lady she's from Travis County, Texas, which is Austin. And you would think that Texas people would kind of be pro oil and gas, but I think she's part of the Blue Austin group. And she literally made the comment that, all these coastal counties just need to plan for a managed retreat. And it kind of took me back for a second. And I unmuted my mic and I said, Commissioner, so do you understand that the coastal counties and parishes across the country make up 48% of the nation's population and 50% of the GDP? So if we retreat, you no longer have a nation, right? So we're going to be working on that energy stuff. We're also working on getting NACO to support as a whole the RISE Act that's being written by Senator Cassidy and Senator Whitehouse out of Rhode Island or Maine. I think it's Rhode Island. That has to do with GOMESA revenue and how we get those revenues from offshore oil and gas leases, but also is going to focus on offshore wind. Offshore wind is coming. It's going to be a huge deal. It could be a game changer for us in coastal Louisiana. So if we're gonna lease blocks offshore, which is probably going to happen the first or second quarter of 23, we want to make sure that the revenue coming off of that we get as well, like we do with oil and gas. Right. So about 2 months ago, there was a lease sale off of the coast of New York, generated like $4.4 billion in revenue. If the RISE Act would have been in place, the state of New York would have got 50% of that. We could do a whole lot when it comes to hurricane protection and coastal restoration with a couple of billion dollars, right? Sure. When you give that to Chairman Klein up at CPRA and let him pump that in the levees and hurricane protection and coastal restoration. So that's going to be a key point of this. We're going to amend it basically from the floor while we're up there. Congressman Scalise and Congressman Carter introduced what they call the Breeze Act in the House this week, which is almost the same thing as the RISE Act. There's a couple of minutia details in there that are different. But we're going to support both of them, that no matter which one makes its way through the legislative process, they know NACO supports it as a whole, right? And it's good for us. It's good for those interior states as well, because they get revenue off of this stuff. And last year with the passage of the Great American Outdoors Act, some of this GOMESA revenue and what would be offshore wind revenue goes to national parks. So these counties that have national parks and things like that, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, you can apply for grants to get money out of that as well. So it's kind of a holistic approach. So we're going to be up there the next couple of days, or there's a huge delegation from Louisiana that goes. Parish council members from across. Terrebonne normally has a couple there as well. St. Charles does. Some of the northern Louisiana parishes. So we'll have a good Louisiana contingent up there. And hopefully make some progress and get some good things done.
Tell that chairman that, if there ever a tornado goes through, Austin, that they can just move, Yeah.
Well, and my other comment back to her was I got back from Central Texas. That's where my wife is from. And they were under burn bans, couldn't pop fireworks for 4th of July. Maybe you guys need to manage retreat back to where there's water, right? Come to the coast, and then you can pop some fireworks like we did in Thibodeau for 4th of July.
Yeah, wasn't that nice?
Wasn't that nice?
It was nice. I was down in Grand Isle, and it was very nice. A lot of stuff not there anymore down in Grand Isle, but real nice. So, well, represented us good, and, certainly the EPA, we only got 20 seconds. That EPA, that Supreme Court saying the EPA can't make rulings, that should help our area?
That should help our area. And there's also some weird stipulations in that talk about how the federal government can just implement rules. So there's a group of us looking at that when it comes to like flood insurance and how you can just put stuff on the books and not have any backworm.
No, I think that's going to be a good rule. Archie, have a good trip.
Thanks, Harry.
We'll see you next time. We'll be right back when we'll buy time.